Level 1. The idea. You are broke in a specific way that has a direction. Not the broke of someone who ran out of money and has no plan. The broke of someone who looked at the world and found a gap in it and cannot stop thinking about the gap. You're 26 years old and you have $1,100 in a checking account, an idea that won't leave you alone, and a laptop that overheats if you run too many tabs, and the absolute conviction that the conviction is enough to begin with. The idea is not original in the way that people who have never built anything think ideas need to be original. It is a better version of an existing thing. You tell 3 people. 2 of them nod politely. One of them says that sounds interesting in the specific way that means they're being kind rather than honest. None of this changes anything, because the idea was never going to live or die on the opinion of people who weren't going to build it. You spend 4 months building the first version in your apartment. The apartment has a futon and a desk and a coffee maker that produces something that qualifies as coffee in the same way that your first version qualifies as a product. Technically functional, obviously incomplete. Enough to show someone and find out if the thing you believe about the problem is actually true or just something you believe. You find out. It is true. Your first customer pays you $40 a month. You call your mother and tell her. She asks when you're getting a real job. You don't answer the question because the answer is never. But saying never to your mother at this stage requires a confidence you are still building. The second customer pays $40. The third. Then 5 more. Then the number stops being something you can count on your fingers and starts being something that requires a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet is the first document that makes this feel real in a way that the conviction never quite did. Level 2. The grind. You have 12 employees and no idea what you're doing with any of them. Not the product. The product you understand. The product is the thing you have spent every waking hour on for 2 years. And the product is good and getting better, and the customers know it. The employees are people you hired because the product outgrew what one person can build and manage and sell and support simultaneously. You hire your first engineer by posting on a job board and interviewing 7 people and choosing the one who reminded you most of how you think. This turns out to be correct. You hire your second by choosing the person with the most impressive resume. This turns out to be incorrect in a way that takes 4 months to become undeniable and 2 weeks to resolve. The company does $2 million in revenue. This number is real and also means almost nothing because revenue and survival are not the same thing, and you have payroll every 2 weeks, and the distance between the revenue coming in and the payroll going out is a gap that you monitor with the specific attention of someone who knows that the gap closing is the end of everything. You raise a seed round, $800,000 from 2 angel investors who believe in the market and in you in roughly equal measure. You spend 3 days reading the term sheet. You don't fully understand the term sheet. You hire a lawyer who explains the parts you don't understand. The lawyer's hourly rate makes the gap slightly worse for the month. You sign anyway because the alternative is slower. You work every day, not metaphorically. You answer emails at 11 p.m. You talk to customers on Saturday mornings. You debug production issues at 2 a.m. because the engineer who should be debugging them is asleep and the customer is not. You do all of this, not from martyrdom, but from the understanding that the company is currently the length of your arms in every direction, and your arms have to reach everywhere. This is not sustainable. You know it isn't sustainable. You build it until it doesn't have to be. Level 3. The traction. Something shifts in year 3, and you can't point to the exact moment. The growth was always there, month over month, consistently, the kind of growth that investors describe as healthy and that you describe as not fast enough when you're in the building and as pretty good when you're talking to anyone outside it. And then something changes in the slope of it. A partnership closes, a competitor stumbles, a piece of coverage reaches the right audience. You have 40 employees now. The problems are organizational, and the organizational problems are harder than the technical problem. A technical problem has an answer. An organizational problem has a response. The distinction matters. You spend more time in rooms now than you used to, which is to say you spend more time managing the organization than building the product. And this shift is necessary and correct, and also costs you something that you don't fully name but feel in the specific restlessness that arrives on the days when you haven't made anything. Revenue crosses 10 million. You raise a Series A. $12 million. Institutional investors now. A board seat even to someone whose fund wrote the check, and who is experienced and helpful and also has opinions about your business that are sometimes right and sometimes wrong and are always delivered with the confidence appropriate to someone whose fund wrote the check. You learn to run a board meeting. Running a board meeting is a specific skill that no one teaches you and that you develop through the experience of running board meetings that don't go the way you planned and understanding afterward what you would have done differently. You get better at it. You hire a VP of sales. The VP of sales generates more revenue in her first quarter than you generated in your entire first year. You call your mother. She asks if you're eating. You tell her yes. This is mostly true. Level 4, the scaling. You are running a real company now, and you are not sure you were built for it. Not the founding you were built for. The early chaos and the product decisions and the customer conversations and the recruiting and the fundraising and the 12 types of problem arriving simultaneously. That version of the job fit the shape of your brain. This version is management at scale, process, org design, executive hiring. The distance between your decisions and their consequences measured not in minutes, but in quarters. You hire a COO. The COO is someone who has done this before, who has taken a company from 30 employees to 300 and knows what breaks at each inflection point and what to build before it breaks. You hire her, and she rebuilds the operations in 90 days, and the rebuilding is uncomfortable for everyone in the company and necessary for all the same reasons. You support it in public without reservation. In private, you have moments of wanting the old version back, the small, fast version, the version where you knew everyone's name and the org chart fit on one page. You know the new version is better. Revenue crosses 50 million. You raise a Series B, 40 million. The valuation attached to the round places the company at $220 million. Your stake in the company, after 2 years of dilution, is worth approximately $40 million on paper. On paper, you have not sold a share. You have a number attached to your name in a spreadsheet that lives in a venture capital firm's portfolio management system, and the number is large, and the number is theoretical, and the number could be worth nothing in 3 years or 10 times more in 5. And the uncertainty of it is something you have made peace with, because making peace with uncertainty is the founding skill, and you have been practicing it since the futon and the overheating laptop and the $40 customer. Level 5, the exit. Someone wants to buy your company, not a small someone, a very large public company in your industry that has spent 5 years failing to build what you spent 5 years succeeding at building, and has concluded that acquisition is faster than construction. Their first offer is $300 million. You decline it in the same week you receive it, because $300 million tells you what they think the floor is, and the floor is not where you negotiate. The process takes 4 months. Lawyers and bankers and due diligence and management presentations, and the specific exhaustion of building a company while simultaneously being acquired, which requires you to keep the company running at full performance while also answering questions about it continuously, and maintaining the confidence of your employees who can sense that something significant is happening. The deal closes at $580 million. Your stake converts to cash. You are sitting in a conference room when the wire confirms and the number is in your account, and there is no ceremony. There is a lawyer across the table, and a banker on the phone, and a document that everyone signed, and then a number that appears in an account, and that is it. You call your mother. She says, "Oh my God." You say, "Yeah." She cries. You don't, but it is closer than the time you told her about the first customer. You drive home. You sit in the kitchen. The kitchen looks the same as it looked this morning and the morning before that. The same coffee maker. You make coffee. You drink it. You try to feel the size of what happened. It takes approximately 3 weeks before the size of it starts to become real. And by then, you are already thinking about the next thing. Level 6. The investor. You spend 6 months doing nothing. Not nothing. You travel, you read, you sleep at regular hours for the first time in 5 years, and the regular sleep produces a kind of thinking that the 5 years of irregular sleep didn't. And the kind of thinking it produces is, I want to do this again. Not the same thing, something new, but the founding of something, the gap finding, the first customer, the spreadsheet becoming real. You become an investor. Not a fund, not yet. You write checks from your own account to founders who are where you were. You give them the money and the thing that is worth more than the money, which is the specific knowledge of what happens at each stage and where the gaps are and what breaks and what to build before it breaks. You have a dozen portfolio companies. 3 of them are going well. 2 are struggling in ways that are recoverable. 4 are struggling in ways that probably aren't. 3 are gone. This is approximately the expected distribution, and it still bothers you every time. The founders call you at 11 p.m. with the problems. You take the calls. You know what 11 p.m. problems feel like from the inside, and you know the difference between a problem that needs a solution and a founder who needs to feel like someone who has been further than them is still reachable by phone. You be the second thing often, the first thing when you can. You make more money investing than you made building. This should feel like more. It feels like less. The money from the exit felt earned in a specific physical way. The returns from investments feel like math, and the math is correct and profitable, and also doesn't arrive at the smell of crude oil or the 2 a.m. debugging or the first $40 customer. You think about building again. Level 7, the platform. You start a fund, not because you need to, because the investing without a structure around it is limited by the size of your check, and the size of your check, while significant, is not significant at the scale of the problems you have become interested in. The fund is $250 million. The limited partners are endowments and pension funds and family offices and other institutional allocators of capital whose checks you solicited with the same energy you once solicited customers. The skill set transfers. The stakes are larger. The discomfort of raising money never fully goes away, regardless of how many times you do it. Your name means something now. Not fame, relevance. Founders want you on their cap table. You choose carefully because your time is finite and your attention is the resource. And attention given to companies that don't deserve it is attention taken from companies that do. You get on a plane 40 times a year. You are in San Francisco, in New York, in London, in Singapore, in Austin, in Miami, and you are in all of these places because the companies you care about are in all of these places. And the relationship between an investor and a founder requires physical presence in the moments when presence matters. The moments when presence matter are not predictable. You learn to be mobile. Your net worth crosses $1 billion. You learn about this from a list. A publication that tracks these things puts your name on a list, and your assistant mentions the list, and you look at it for approximately 45 seconds and then close the tab because the list is a lagging indicator of decisions made years ago, and lagging indicators are not where attention should live. You call a founder who is having a hard week. Level 8, the legacy. You are 53 years old, and the question has changed. In the beginning, the question was, how do I make this work? Then it was, how do I make this bigger? Then it was, how do I make more of these? Now the question is different, and it arrived without announcement somewhere around year 4 of the fund, when you were sitting in a meeting and realized that the outcome of the meeting would matter to people you would never meet in ways that extended beyond anything you had considered when you were 26 and broke, in the specific way that had a direction. You start a foundation. The foundation works on 2 things: education access in communities that don't produce founders at the rate they produce people who could be founders if the conditions were different, and climate technology, the infrastructure of decarbonization, the specific category of problem that is large enough and important enough and unfunded enough that you believe the capital you can deploy matters in a way that is not purely financial. You are not naive about this. You have been in rooms where wealthy people discuss their philanthropic efforts, and the discussion is sometimes more about the discussion than the work. And you have tried to build something that is oriented differently. Measurable outcomes, honest accounting of what works and what doesn't. The same rigor you applied to a portfolio company applied to the social investment. It is harder than the portfolio company. The feedback loops are longer, and the success metrics are contested, and the politics of the work are more complicated than the politics of a cap table. And the people who work in this space have been doing it for decades before you arrived with your capital and your framework and your conviction that your approach is right. Some of them are right about things you were wrong about. You update accordingly. You sit on 2 public company boards, you give 1 commencement address a year and try to say something true rather than something inspiring, though you have noticed that true and inspiring are not always as different as people assume. The young roughneck, the 26-year-old in the apartment with the futon, you think about them sometimes.
not with nostalgia exactly, with recognition. Every founder you meet who has the specific broke that has a direction reminds you of something you recognize, and you try to give them the thing that was given to you, which is the belief from someone further along that the belief is not unreasonable. Most of them will not make it to this level. Most of the ones who don't will still build something real, something that worked for a while or for a long while, or that failed in a way that produced the person who builds the next thing correctly. The ecosystem is the work. You write a check. You get on a plane. The next meeting is in 40 minutes.